Last time on Deconverted Man.
Deconverted Man totally forgot about this Sonic thing and gave up on it. He remembered the Karm Harm 4 series, but said, screw it. Briefly summoned Tony Reed to look at one of his videos, and then thoroughly pissed off belcantogs, whatever his name is.
And now, back to the video.
For example, the anatomies of the limbs of some different animals look similar, hence the proof for evolution. Let me argue by saying, if a company designs an electronic equipment or computer, it will use many commonly available parts to build the machine. If you look at two similar machines from two different manufacturers, they would possess many similar parts. Can you say one machine is the result of evolution from the other? That would be absurd, wouldn't it?
Humongous structures are not the only piece of evidence that we have for evolution, but it is a huge, giant indication that we all share a common ancestor. Typically, when asked about different skulls, creationists cannot identify what skull is what, or what skull was before what skull, or what skull should be human, what skull should be considered not human. This test has been done many times, and creationists fail it every time, because they don't want something to be in the middle, because they want their narrative of a missing link to be maintained. In your piss poor analogy, you mentioned computers and how, well, it'd be silly to look at computers with similar things and then think that they came from a similar ancestor. Well, if we go back far enough, actually, that turns out to be true. Computers do share a common ancestor, in essence. Of course, this didn't evolve the same way that creatures evolve, and it was not made in the same way that creatures are made, but nonetheless, technology does in fact evolve, and we have a clear-cut case of technological evolution, slow change through time, guided by humans to do a specific task. The ones that didn't do that task were thrown out, were discarded. And the ones that did do the task were kept. The ones that do the best task are the ones that win. There's other factors, of course, involved because of markets playing a part in all of that, but we can, in fact, trace the evolution of technology to one common ancestor in computers. We can do the same with bones. There is a difference, though. There's a big difference. The advancements in technology are often quick and sudden, whereas the advancements in evolution are slow and gradual. The carnage left behind biological evolution is pretty dim, but for technology, not so much. Your analogy just proves, again, that you don't understand science, you don't understand biological evolution. I really think you're just reading from some creationist website at this point. But oops, you screwed up. So I guess you want to make an argument. It's like, well, but you couldn't tell that modern computers were all made like from the same manufacturer, which would be your argument, wouldn't it? Like, oh, humans all have common structures, but that doesn't mean they shared a common ancestor. Maybe the creators just used all the same parts, like, consistently in his creation. Humans have to do that. But a God that's unlimited doesn't have to do that. A God with infinite power wouldn't have to do that. Nature does have to do it that way. But a being with the sort of power that God is usually attributed to God wouldn't have to do it that way at all. Why would God use similar parts? It would just make us conclude that evolution was the case. So is God lying to us? How does this work?
And yet that is how people reason for evolution. These so-called evidences are nothing but God using similar parts to create all species. Besides, when God created, there was no reason not to use the same parts again that had been proven perfect.
Oh, you mean these perfect parts? The perfect parts used to make people that have all sorts of birth defects? Not to mention animals and stuff with birth defects. Those perfect parts? Yeah. Good job. Yeah, those are some perfect parts. Or are you saying that the parts are perfect, but assembly might not be perfect? Is that what you're saying?
Furthermore, can human be the result of random chances? If there is unlimited time, it is theoretically possible, but in actuality, it is impossible. We will see why. You can buy lottery in many states. Where I live, you can buy lottery by choosing 5 numbers from 1 to 60, then another number from 1 to 40.
Alright, I'm just gonna skip it. Forget it. There's no point in rehashing this. Oh, the odds are really high. You don't understand how it works. One. Secondly, anything that's complex, and even things that aren't so complex, if you try to figure out what the odds are of and then the brain, it melts, and then I tell you, I will tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a lobster, and then the lobster, it ate my foot, and my foot, it went on top of the Empire State Building, and it waved because it was a hand. But the hand was actually a lizard, and the lizard's name was Bob. And Bob jumped off the building. But it could fly because it was a flying lizard. But it wasn't my foot or my hand. It was a bowl of spaghetti. And that's why we know that the door is locked. Blah, 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 blah.
And a half right-handed amino acids in the container. Just like some people may have without hands, while some other ones may have 3 hands. But on average, we have 2 hands, 1 right and 1 left. Let me use probability to examine if a typical protein can be formed. There are 20-some different proteins. A typical protein
Creationists often claim that the chances of modern enzyme forming by random means are astronomically small, and therefore the chance of a complete bacterium, which is composed of hundreds or thousands of such enzymes and proteins, is so near impossible that it would never happen in the 13 billion years or so since the universe took shape. The main problem with this argument is it assumes that abiogenesis, the initial formation of life from simpler molecules, was a totally random process. It also assumes that in order for abiogenesis to be successful, a complete microbe would have to be formed spontaneously. In fact, the same non-random forces which propel biological evolution also propel abiogenesis, specifically natural selection. The calculation which supports the creation argument begins with the probability of 300 molecule-long proteins forming by total random chance. They would be approximately 1 chance in 10 to the 390
that all
This
the amino
number is
acids
astonishingly huge by comparison. The number of all atoms in the observable universe is 10 to the power of 80. So if a simple protein has that unlikely chance of forming, what hope does a complete bacterium have? If this were the theory of abiogenesis, and if it relied entirely on random chance, then yes, it would be impossible for life to form this way. However, this is not the case.
Power, because we multiply half 400 times. But how small is 2 to the negative 400th power? We apply logarithm. We found it to be less than 10 to the negative 120th power. It is so small that our brain simply cannot comprehend. Drawing the analogy of winning the lottery, the probability for a protein to be formed is equivalent to winning the lottery 11 consecutive times. You know, it is very hard to win the lottery. If you win it once, you are very lucky indeed. If you win twice, you are ridiculously lucky. If you win in 3 times, then the police will probably come to investigate if you are cheating. You see, very often no one wins. So the prize money accumulates to a huge prize, and many will be waiting in line to buy the tickets. You see, we have heard about winning the lottery. But can you believe that anyone could win 11 consecutive times? One is crazy to believe that. Now,
I keep looking for the creationist website that you stole all of this from, and I get close, but I can't find the exact wording that you're using. So as near as I can figure, you've cobbled together a number of creationist arguments and made them your own. So at least you did that. I mean, that's kind of creative. I mean, you didn't steal it verbatim from a website, at least not that I can find. Maybe somebody that's a little bit more patient with Google can find the exact website that you ripped this off from if you got it just from one website. But the point is, these arguments are bad. They've been debunked. We understand how these things work, and you don't. The probability that you're talking about simply doesn't apply. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the rest of the arguments. In fact, it's not even an argument. The probability that you're trying to assign assumes a lot of things about abiogenesis that simply aren't true. It flies in the face of actual, demonstrable science. And it's really odd that this probability would be used. After all, how many different gods are there available for us to choose from? Even if there was just 2 versions of God out there, that's still a 50-50 chance. It's a flip of the coin that you get the right God. That's a lot to gamble with. If both gods claim that if you don't believe in that particular God that you're screwed, you pick the wrong one, you're screwed. And neither God gives you any indication that it is real, you just have to believe in it by faith, well, then you have to just hope that you pick the right one. But the odds aren't 50-50 because there's far more God concepts out there. I don't know what the odds are, because I don't know how many versions of God there are. Dozens? Hundreds? Thousands? Tens of thousands? But you'd have to show that God is actual in the first place for any of those decisions to actually matter. And if your probability argument had any merit at all, it would already be in the numerous scientific journals about biological evolution. To buy into what you're saying, we have to believe that scientists somehow missed this bit of mathematics, even though scientists know math. So there must be some global conspiracy crossing borders, religions, politics, all to pretend that biological evolution works, that it's real. That's one heck of a conspiracy theory to swallow. And I'm just not going to do it. You don't understand how this stuff works. And I don't think you want to. Your creationist lies, there's just that. Well, there's just lies. The thing is, as I've said before, since you tied your God into these things being true, by implication, if not saying it outright, your God cannot be true. The other thing is, I don't trust you, to be honest with us. The misrepresentation that you're doing right now of science, now, that makes you distrustworthy already. Huge red flags, ginormous red flags go up for me. How can I trust you about God when you are lying about these things? I just can't do it. You don't have any evidence to offer us. You don't have any tests to offer us. And your argument is so incoherent that, well, I mean, it's like beyond incoherent. I mean, is there more than incoherent? I mean, it's just really incoherent. I was going to say it's so incoherent that I can't believe it, but I have to believe it because I heard your arguments. And I watched your video. And it's wrong. And you're wrong. And you're a liar. Shame on you. Well, join me next time in the next video where I debunk his next thing. And by debunk, I mean basically I'll tell him that he's wrong several times and complain about it. And I'll do really sloppy science, because even sloppy science is better than the non-science that he does. I'll probably lose my mind a few times doing the video too. I don't know. Maybe Blue Sheep will save me or something. I don't know.